The unexpected day. It was just another morning in the local courthouse. The big, cold courtroom seemed quiet and tense. A white judge sat up high on his chair, looking down at a black woman standing below him. Everything looked normal, but it wasn't going to stay that way. When you first walked into the courtroom that day, everything seemed completely normal. The white judge sitting up high looked like he was about to handle just another everyday case. He saw a black woman standing in front of him, and, without knowing anything about her, he already seemed to have made up his mind. His body language said everything. He wasn't really listening. He wasn't curious about who she was or what her story might be. Instead, he looked at her the way some people look at someone they think is already in trouble. His eyes showed he thought she was just another person who was going to get told what to do. But here's the thing that made this moment special. He was totally wrong. The woman standing in front of him wasn't who he thought she was. She wasn't someone weak or powerless. She wasn't someone who would just accept whatever he said. She was something completely different. A federal prosecutor, one of the most powerful lawyers in the entire country. The judge didn't know that yet. He saw her skin color and jumped to a quick conclusion. He assumed she was just another person who would be easy to push around. He didn't see her brain. He didn't see her years of training. He didn't see her incredible skills as a lawyer. This moment was like a book waiting to be opened. From the outside, everything looked simple, but underneath, there was going to be a huge surprise. The judge thought he knew exactly what was going to happen, but he was about to learn one of the biggest lessons of his life. It was a moment when prejudice was about to meet pure, professional excellence, and prejudice was going to lose, big time. The tension in the courtroom was thick, like a heavy blanket nobody wanted to touch. The judge started talking about a fine, his voice sharp and quick, filled with a kind of automatic authority that suggested he'd done this hundreds of times before. He wasn't really looking at the woman as a person. To him, she was just another case to get through. His tone was cold and matter-of-fact. "You'll pay this fine," he seemed to say, without actually saying the words. His body language screamed that he expected no argument. This was how he usually handled things, quick, decisive, with no room for discussion. But the woman standing before him was different from anyone he'd encountered before. While he was busy being loud and confident, she was something else entirely. Her silence was powerful. Her posture was calm but strong. She wasn't fidgeting or looking nervous like many people do in courtrooms. Instead, she stood perfectly still, listening carefully. Every time the judge spoke, she watched him. Not with anger, not with fear, but with a kind of calm understanding that was starting to make him uncomfortable. It was like she knew something he didn't, like she had a secret weapon that he couldn't see. The first clash wasn't about shouting or fighting. It was about two completely different ways of being in the world. The judge represented an old system, quick to judge, slow to listen. The woman represented something new, professional, controlled, absolutely confident in her own power. When he talked about the fine, he thought it was the end of the conversation. He thought he would win, just like he always did. But he didn't realize that this time, everything was about to change. This moment was like a chess game. The judge thought he was making the first move, but the woman was already 10 moves ahead, and he didn't even know it. Everything changed with just a few words. The woman standing in the courtroom wasn't just another person getting a fine. She was a federal prosecutor, which is basically one of the most important lawyer jobs in the entire country. Imagine the judge thinking he was dealing with someone who didn't know anything about the law. But he was completely wrong. This woman knew more about law than almost anyone in that courtroom. She had spent years studying. She had gone to top law schools. She had won difficult cases that most lawyers would be scared to even take. When she started explaining who she was, the room went completely quiet. Her words were like a sharp knife cutting through all the judge's wrong ideas. She talked about her career, not to brag, but to show the truth. She had prosecuted serious criminal cases. She had worked directly for the United States government. She wasn't just a lawyer. She was a top-level legal professional. The details she shared were impressive. Years of training, complex cases solved, a record of success that most lawyers could only dream about. She wasn't just defending herself. She was showing exactly who she was. The judge's face started to change. His confident smile disappeared. His quick judgment melted away. He realized he had made a huge mistake. The person he thought was weak was incredibly strong. The person he thought knew nothing knew everything. This was more than just a surprise. This was a complete turning of the tables. The judge thought he was in control. But now he was the one feeling uncomfortable. Now he was the one being judged. In just a few moments, everything had changed. The woman went from being someone the judge didn't respect to someone he was now afraid of disappointing. She showed that true power isn't about sitting in a high chair. True power is about knowledge, hard work, and being excellent at what you do. The entire courtroom held its breath. This was the moment everything was about to shift, and everyone could feel it. The federal prosecutor wasn't just speaking. She was systematically destroying every single assumption the judge had made about her. Her words were like precise instruments, carefully cutting through his prejudice. She pulled out her credentials, one by one, showing exactly who she was. Her professional background was stunning. Years of legal training from top universities. Countless federal cases were successfully prosecuted. A track record so impressive that it made the previous moments of judgment look completely ridiculous. She wasn't just defending herself. She was exposing the judge's narrow-mindedness. The judge's face started changing color. First, he looked confused, then shocked. Then something close to embarrassment began spreading across his face. The powerful man who moments ago thought he controlled everything was now shrinking in his seat. Every single person in the courtroom could see what was happening. This wasn't just about a fine anymore. This was about challenging a system that often judges people before knowing their true worth. The prosecutor wasn't angry. She was calm, professional, absolutely in control. Her credentials spoke louder than any argument could. She wasn't just a lawyer. She was a federal prosecutor, someone who works directly for the United States government, handling the most serious and complex legal cases. The kind of lawyer that most people would be incredibly impressed by. The power dynamic in the room completely flipped. The judge, who moments ago was sitting high and mighty, now looked small. The woman he thought he could easily fine was now revealing herself as someone far more significant than he could have imagined. This was more than a personal victory. This was a moment that represented something much bigger, a challenge to automatic prejudice, a statement about not judging people by how they look, but by who they are. The moment everything changed wasn't loud. It was quiet, powerful, absolutely unforgettable. This wasn't just about one court case or one moment between a judge and a lawyer. This was about something much deeper and more important in our society. How people are often judged before they even get a chance to speak. The federal prosecutor represented something powerful, breaking through unfair expectations. For years, Black professionals have had to work twice as hard to prove themselves in spaces where they weren't expected to succeed. This moment was like a spotlight showing exactly how that works. Imagine a system where people are automatically assumed to be less capable because of how they look. That's what was happening in that courtroom. The judge didn't see a skilled lawyer. He first saw a black woman and made assumptions about who she was and what she could do. But she changed the entire story. By being calm, professional, and absolutely excellent at her job, she did something amazing. She didn't just defend herself. She showed everyone watching that talent and hard work can break through any barrier. This wasn't about making the judge look bad. This was about showing the world that professional excellence has no color. Intelligence, skill, and dedication aren't limited by race. They come from hard work, education, and personal commitment. The bigger story was about hope. Hope that one day people will be judged by their abilities, not their appearance. Hope that systems can change. Hope that individual excellence can challenge broken systems. Every person watching learned something important that day. They learned that prejudice is weak. They learned that true power comes from knowledge, preparation, and believing in yourself. The prosecutor wasn't just winning a court case. She was opening doors for everyone who had ever been underestimated. She was showing that no matter what obstacles you face, your skills and your character are what truly matter. This moment was bigger than one courtroom. It was a powerful message about justice, equality, and the incredible power of proving yourself through pure, professional excellence. When everything was over, the courtroom felt different. The fine was gone, completely withdrawn. But something much bigger had happened that couldn't be erased by a simple legal document. The judge wasn't just quiet. He was transformed. The man who had entered the courtroom so confident and dismissive was now sitting there completely humbled. His earlier assumptions had been completely destroyed, and he knew it. Every person in the room could see the change in him, the moment when someone realizes they were wrong, truly wrong. The federal prosecutor didn't celebrate or show anger. She was professional to the very end. She had made her point not through emotion, but through pure, undeniable excellence. Her credentials, her calm demeanor, her absolute confidence had done all the talking that was needed. As she walked out of the courtroom, her steps were steady. She wasn't walking away as a victim. She was walking away as a victor. But more than that, she was walking away as a powerful symbol of what's possible when you're prepared, when you're skilled, and when you refuse to be defined by other people's limited expectations. The other lawyers and court staff watched her. Some looked impressed, some looked embarrassed, but everyone understood something important had just happened. This wasn't just a legal victory. This was a moment that challenged an entire system of unconscious bias. The consequences of this moment would go far beyond this single courtroom. People would talk about this. Young black professionals would hear this story and feel inspired. Other judges might think twice before making quick assumptions about someone based on how they look. More than anything, this was a story about dignity. The dignity of standing up for yourself. The dignity of being so good at what you do that no one can ignore your value. The dignity of turning a moment of potential discrimination into a powerful lesson about respect. The storm of prejudice had come, and she had stood right in the middle of it, unshaken and unbreakable. This story is about more than just one court case. It's about standing up for yourself. It's about showing people who you really are. It's about proving that what matters most is how good you are at your job, not what you look like. The prosecutor walked out of that courtroom with her head held high. She didn't just win a legal battle, she won something much bigger: respect. In a world that often tries to limit you, her story proves that excellence speaks louder than prejudice. and no courtroom can silence true professional power. Hey, everyone! If you loved this incredible true story about justice, professional excellence, and standing up against discrimination, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit notification bell. Like this video, drop a comment sharing what you learned. Want more stories that inspire and challenge the system? Stay tuned. New videos every week that'll make you think, feel, and believe in the power of individual excellence. See you in the next video. Peace.